As the Biden administration and its wonderful pals in Congress continue the decades-long march to trample the fundamental right to keep and bear arms, many Americans are starting to push back. And one of the most notable pushbacks just happened in Montana, where the governor signed legislation prohibiting enforcement of future federal gun bans. Hi, everyone. I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC-TV. Here is the news. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, a Republican, on April 23rd signed legislation that would effectively prohibit state and local so-called authorities, including police, from enforcing federal bans or restrictions on firearms, ammunition, gun accessories, parts, or magazines. Sponsored by freshman State Representative Caleb Hinkle, a Republican, Montana House Bill 258, also called the Montana Federal Firearm, Magazine, and Ammunition Ban Enforcement Prohibition Act, immediately states its justification based on the U.S. and Montana constitutions, and it cites U.S. Supreme Court precedent pertaining to aspects of the so-called federal Brady handgun law that it found to be unconstitutional. Section 2, Declaration of Authority. Sections 1 through 4 are done under the authority of the 2nd and 10th Amendments to the United States Constitution. Article 2, Section 12 of the Montana Constitution, Montana's compact with the United States, and Prince v. U.S., 521 U.S. 898, 1997. This early statement of constitutional pertinence offered by the statute writer is something that few legislators on any level ever bother offering. But this Montana statute comes at a time when many of the state's residents and many other Americans are starting to push back against long creeping attacks on their fundamental human rights. And Representative Hinkle's statute is unambiguous when it comes to the definitions and prohibitions. One of the most important definitions is what the statute means by federal ban. Quote, federal ban means a federal law, executive order, rule, or regulation that is enacted, adopted, or becomes effective on or after January 1st, 2021, or a new and more restrictive interpretation of a law that existed on January 1st, 2021, that infringes upon, calls in question, or prohibits, restricts, or requires individual licensure for or registration of the purchase, ownership, possession, transfer, or use of any firearm, any magazine, or other ammunition feeding device, or other firearm accessory. Soon thereafter, the legislation provides clear and powerful text nullifying old federal firearms bans and prohibiting the enforcement of future bans that might be passed by the U.S. legislative branch or enacted via executive order by any president, all of which would be unconstitutional. It's worth offering that section of the bill for everybody to see. Section 4, Prohibition of Enforcement. 1. A peace officer, state employee, or employee of a political subdivision is prohibited from enforcing, assisting in the enforcement of, or otherwise cooperating in the enforcement of a federal ban on firearms, magazines, or ammunition, and is also prohibited from participating in any federal enforcement action implementing a federal ban on firearms, magazines, or ammunition. 2. An employee of the state or a political subdivision may not expend public funds or allocate public resources for the enforcement of a federal ban on firearms, magazines, or ammunition. 3. Nothing in this section may be construed to prohibit or otherwise limit a peace officer, state employee, or employee of a political subdivision from cooperating, communicating, or collaborating with a federal agency if the primary purpose is not A, law enforcement activity related to a federal ban, or B, the investigation of a violation of a federal ban. Clearly, Representative Hinkle and the Montanans who supported the bill have had enough of the Biden threats. For example, as Newsmax and the Associated Press report, quote, Biden announced this month several executive actions to address gun violence, including a move to crack down on ghost guns, homemade firearms that lack serial numbers used to trace them and are often purchased without a background check. The U.S. Justice Department, so-called, has not yet announced its new rules regarding ghost guns, which are expected to be released in the coming weeks. Send armed agents of the government after people, innocent people, just because they own something. Who are the criminals there? And of course, all of the above are utter affronts to the Second Amendment, moves done with such shameless lawlessness that one wonders what the founders would have thought of people like Biden and his cohorts in D.C. And of course, Newsmax and the AP also remind us of this. The president has also called for a ban on assault weapons, but such legislation will likely face an uphill climb. You know, all over America, people are rising against this federal tyranny, and it seems that the Montana governor is with them. Shortly after signing the legislation, Gianforte stated on his Twitter feed, quote, "Today I proudly signed Representative Hinkle's law prohibiting federal overreach into our Second Amendment protected rights, including any federal ban on firearms. I will always protect our hashtag to a right to keep and bear arms." But lest one forget, Montana's HB 258 does not negate enforcement of so-called federal restrictions and mandates on firearms ownership. Restrictions and mandates such as requiring gun stores to engage in the National Instant Criminal Background Check system. You know, the NICS system, which not only delays many peacefully minded purchasers from acquiring guns, but also is, like all other federal so-called restrictions, not sanctioned by the U.S. Constitution. In fact, it is prohibited by the U.S. Constitution. This is, however, a start, and it's a bright signal to others that we can see all over the United States. Fired from the Montana state capital of Helena, this is an ascending flare we can all recognize, and something that other state legislators can repeat in the great tradition of the state nullification of unconstitutional federal statutes that Thomas Jefferson explained in 1798 with his Kentucky resolutions. It goes all the way back in history, everybody. We're tied to it. And hopefully we'll stand up for our rights. Hey, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Watch us over on Rumble as well. All the videos are housed there. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you on TikTok. We'll see you on Instagram. We'll see you in Facebook. We'll see you in Parler. And want to mention to you, if you want some great MRC items, the store's web address is now shop.mrc.org. Shop.mrc.org. Get some great Media Research Center swag there for the MRC. I'm Gardner Goldsmith.